Stop everything for a moment and allow your spirit to receive what is about to be revealed, because what happened beyond the veil of the physical world in the last 72 hours shook celestial realms in a way that hasn't occurred since the earliest movements of creation. In the hidden dimensions, where angels stand as guardians of cosmic order, a disturbance rippled through the fabric of spiritual law, a disturbance caused not by demons, not by fallen entities, not by any ancient darkness, but by you, a chosen one, a human soul walking the earth with wounds, scars, memories, and a duality that no heavenly being can fully understand. And when the angels saw what you did, they were not moved to admiration, nor were they inclined to offer praise. Instead, they froze in a silence so deep that even the corridors of eternity held their breath. They witnessed something that should never have been possible, something that spiritual laws, etched into existence before the first star ignited, had declared absolutely forbidden. But you broke it, and it terrified them. Exactly 72 hours ago, in a moment that unfolded unnoticed by the physical eye but fully visible to celestial watchers, you entered your own internal darkness, not as one who falls, not as one who is seduced, but as one who knows the terrain of shadow because life forced you to learn it. You stepped into the chamber of your hidden strength, a place most humans fear, a realm even angels avoid. And yet you walked into it with the precision of someone who has known pain, someone who has been shaped by fire, someone who understands that darkness does not always mean evil. Sometimes it means protection. And in that moment, you called upon power that has been dormant within you for years, a power that activates only when your light is threatened. You used that power to eliminate a spiritual threat that was attacking your purity, and then you returned to your light, intact, unstained, uncorrupted. That was the moment that broke heaven's silence, because angels cannot do what you did. Before this moment, the law seemed eternal. Since the dawn of creation, spiritual order was governed by an absolute decree. Whoever touches darkness becomes darkness. Whoever enters obscurity does not return intact. This wasn't a poetic idea, nor a metaphor meant to inspire caution. It was a cosmic truth, as rigid and unbending as gravity itself. For eons, this law operated with mechanical precision. When an angel rebelled, the transformation was instant. Lucifer, once radiant beyond measure, brushed against the pride that dwells in darkness, and in a single heartbeat his essence inverted. The brightest became the blackest. Light collapsed into shadow. Purity became corruption. There was no transition period, no chance for redemption, no return. His fall was immediate and irreversible, a warning carved into the collective consciousness of all celestial beings. And he was not alone. The angels who followed him, beings of exquisite light, forged in purity, touched darkness only in a single moment of rebellion and were instantly transformed. Their names were erased, their essences twisted, their destinies sealed. No purification could restore them. No amount of repentance could undo the mark. Light and darkness did not mix. They annihilated each other on contact. That was the law. That was the rule. That was the boundary that even archangels would not dare cross. Humans learned the same truth. Those who played with the occult, who opened gates without understanding the forces behind them, discovered too late that shadowy realms do not release what they claim. People who invoked dark entities believing they could maintain control inevitably lost pieces of their humanity. Souls became stained, consciences hardened, and something sacred within them twisted permanently. No fast could cleanse it. No ritual could reverse it. The corruption was irreversible. The law held firm. So the cosmos remained divided, light here and darkness there, separated by an invisible but unbreakable line. For spiritual beings, the two realms were mutually exclusive. To cross into darkness was to fall. To mix with shadow was to be corrupted. Angels feared darkness because contact meant annihilation. Even 1 second of exposure could destroy 1,000 years of purity. And so the binary remained, pristine light on one side, consuming darkness on the other, forever opposed. Until now, because something unexpected, unprecedented, and thoroughly impossible began occurring on Earth. Specific human beings, rare, unusual, marked, began emerging who could defy this fundamental rule. Chosen ones who could enter their own shadow side, tap into the fierce, protective power dwelling there, and come back to the light untouched. At first, heavenly hierarchies dismissed these cases as anomalies, glitches in spiritual mechanics, temporary inconsistencies. But anomalies that repeat are no longer anomalies. They are patterns, evolution, signs of an unfolding truth that ancient laws never accounted for. And you, chosen one, are among those who possess this unimaginable capacity to consciously integrate light and darkness without losing yourself to either. This defies everything the spiritual world has known since the origin of time. You, a human soul clothed in flesh, carry inside you a dual nature that allows you to cross boundaries angels cannot. You can descend into the territory where shadows dwell, not as a victim, but as a commander. You can use that realm to protect your light, and then return to purity without contamination. Angels cannot do this. Demons cannot do this. Only chosen ones, humans forged in pain, sharpened by adversity, strengthened through suffering, can withstand such duality. And that is why the event that occurred 72 hours ago generated a tremor in celestial dimensions. Because you broke a law that was supposed to be unbreakable. You shattered an assumption that structured the cosmos itself. You did something impossible, effortlessly, naturally, instinctively. This capacity within you does not come from rebellion. It comes from integration. There is a violent difference between having two sides and mastering the wisdom of when to use each one without corrupting yourself. What terrifies angels is not the existence of your dark side. It is your ability to enter it deliberately, wield its force with precision, and return to light without losing an ounce of purity. You have done what they cannot, what they were never designed to do. You are more complete than beings made of pure light because you can navigate realms they fear. You carry a divine paradox within you, and this paradox is what elevates you above traditional spiritual hierarchies. And this is only the beginning. 72 hours ago, while you were simply living your human life, a scene unfolded in the invisible realms that none of the angels expected. They watched as you walked through a situation that would have shattered a less evolved soul, a moment designed to test the very edges of your compassion. It began with someone approaching you in apparent vulnerability, false tears, trembling voice, a crafted display of suffering meant to trigger your empathy. You responded as your light always responds, with genuine compassion, attention, and an open heart. You leaned in, you listened, you offered clarity, patience, emotional presence, but beneath all of that, something deeper was happening, something sacred, something only chosen ones do without even realizing it. Because while your light reached out, your intuition, the quiet operator of your spirit, caught a tiny inconsistency, a micro-expression, a tone that did not match the story, a vibration that felt off, like a string slightly out of tune in an otherwise perfect melody. And that subtle dissonance was enough to awaken the part of you that rarely emerges, the dormant force within your soul that exists not to harm, but to protect, the dark side, not evil, not malicious, not corrupted, but fierce, sharp, discerning, and uncompromising in its devotion to your well-being. It did not roar to life dramatically. It did not explode in anger or rage. No, its awakening was subtle, precise, almost surgical. It rose like a shadow stepping forward from behind you, placing its hand quietly on your shoulder and whispering, "Enough." And at that moment, your entire energy shifted. Angels watching from the higher realms gasped, not because you embraced darkness, but because you commanded it. Your eyes sharpened, your voice deepened with certainty, your boundaries crystallized like diamond. You spoke words that cut through the performance with astonishing clarity. No softening, no unnecessary filters, no fear of being perceived as harsh. You stated the truth exactly as it was, and the manipulator felt the ground drop beneath their tactics. In that moment, your dark side became the sword your light could not wield. It protected your purity with an authority angels do not possess. It shut down deceit with precision born from experience. It recognized emotional blackmail because it has seen it before. It defended you without guilt, hesitation, or apology. And while the person in front of you tried to escalate the manipulation, more tears, more dramatics, more emotional hooks, the tactics fell apart instantly. They bounced off the invisible wall your soul had raised. It was as if your energy transmuted into something impenetrable, something ancient, something that carried the weight of survival and self-respect. Angels watched this unfold in awe. They saw you step into your internal darkness, not to harm, but to shield. They saw you use power that they themselves cannot touch. And they saw something even more impossible. The moment the threat was neutralized, the moment your dark side completed its mission, you immediately transitioned back into light. Your voice softened. Your heart opened again. You returned to yourself, compassionate, peaceful, unburdened. There was no resentment, no bitterness, no spiritual residue, just clean, steady light, as though nothing extraordinary had occurred at all. This was the moment that broke celestial logic, because according to the spiritual laws they have always known, once a being touches darkness, even for a second, corruption should be inevitable. But you entered it consciously, used its force with precision, and returned unstained. That is not survival. That is mastery, a mastery even celestial beings do not understand. One angel whispered in disbelief, "This shouldn't be possible. The law is absolute." Another responded with trembling certainty, "Then either the law is incomplete, or this human operates under principles beyond our understanding." The third, older and wiser but visibly shaken, said, "If they can do this now, what will they become in time?" What they saw in you was not rebellion, it was integration, a phenomenon so rare, so unprecedented, that the heavens do not possess a manual for it. Angels were never meant to navigate duality. They are pure light, designed to illuminate, guide, heal. But pure light is fragile in the presence of shadow. It has no defense. It collapses on contact. Pure light cannot hold darkness without being destroyed. You, however, can. Because unlike angels, you were not created in perfection. You were born into a world where darkness lurks in every corner. Deception, trauma, rejection, betrayal, survival. You have crawled through shadows they have never touched. You have felt pain that would shatter celestial beings. In every scar, every heartbreak, every moment you dragged yourself through the mud of human experience forged your immunity. Pain became your training. Adversity became your initiation. Trauma became your spiritual armor. So now, when you enter your dark side, you don't drown in it. You navigate it like familiar terrain. You understand its boundaries. You know its language. It recognizes you, and you recognize it. There is no seduction, no contamination, no danger of becoming lost, because you never severed your connection to the light. It is always there, a steady flame guiding your way out. Angels are terrified not of your darkness, but of your ability to move between both realms in an instant, to switch from compassion to firmness and back to compassion without losing yourself. This transition, this flow, this mastery of internal opposites, this is what had the celestial realms paralyzed, because they know that beings of pure light cannot follow you into darkness. They know beings of pure darkness cannot rise into light. But you do both with an ease that breaks the hierarchy of heaven and hell. The truth is simple. The dark side within you is not an enemy, but a guardian. A protector of your sacredness. A shield forged from everything you survived. It emerges not to corrupt, but to defend. And when its task is complete, it retreats like a loyal warrior returning to its post, leaving your light untouched, untarnished. What angels witnessed in those 72 hours was a human doing what angels cannot. A chosen one, stepping into shadow without losing their radiance. A being who is not purely light nor purely darkness, but a divine integration of both, something heaven did not expect and something hell cannot control. What the angels witnessed in you shook them not simply because you used your dark side without corruption, but because of the deeper truth underneath that moment. You possess an immunity to darkness that they, in all their glory, will never develop. Not because you are more divine than them, but because you were forged in an environment they could never survive. You were shaped by shadows, raised in a world of brokenness, and tempered by pain in ways that celestial beings cannot comprehend. And in this reality lies the secret of your evolution. Angels are beings of pure light, sculpted in perfection, untouched by the wounds of mortal existence. They were created in realms where there is no hunger, no betrayal, no loss, no nights spent wondering why suffering comes in waves. They have never cried themselves to sleep. They have never been abandoned. They have never been lied to, deceived, or manipulated. They have never endured heartbreak so deep it felt like the soul itself was tearing. They have never walked through a valley so dark that even God's presence felt distant. They know light, but they do not know resilience. And that is the difference. Because you do. The chosen ones, the rare integrated souls, were born into a fallen world where shadows are present from the first breath. Encounters with darkness were not optional. They were part of life's curriculum. Every disappointment, every trauma, every betrayal, every unanswered prayer, every moment where you were forced to face something you did not deserve, all of it was shaping something inside you that angels could never build on their own. Spiritual immunity, the ability to withstand darkness without becoming it. Imagine two beings, one raised in a sterile environment, protected from every germ, every virus, every storm, every wound. The other raised in the wild, cut, bruised, scarred, hardened by wind and fire. When both are exposed to a new threat, who survives? The one who has been tested. Angels were created in a perfect realm, untouched by corruption, so they never developed the spiritual equivalent of an immune system. When they touch darkness, the purity they carry shatters instantly. There is no resistance because there was never a need for resistance. Their light is beautiful, radiant, holy, but fragile. It burns bright, but it cannot withstand shadow. The moment they rebel, they fall. The moment they slip, they descend completely. Their light collapses in an instant because it was never reinforced by experience. But you were born into a world where suffering is woven into the human experience. Every wound you endured built layers of spiritual armor. Every heartbreak carved endurance into your spirit. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every trauma carved channels where wisdom now flows. Every dark night of the soul built strength that cannot be taught by bliss alone. While angels were created in perfection, you were shaped in imperfection. And paradoxically, that imperfection is what made you stronger. Think of the stories of Scripture. None of the greatest human figures were shaped by comfort. David was hunted before he became king. Joseph was betrayed before he became powerful. Moses was exiled before he became a leader. Even Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness confronting darkness before he began his ministry. Every elevation came after exposure to adversity. Every blessing came through a valley. Every calling was strengthened by wounds. Heaven may contain purity, but earth contains the training ground for spiritual mastery. And that is why humans can develop a relationship with their own darkness without being owned by it. You, chosen one, know what pain feels like. You know what anger feels like. You know what betrayal feels like. You know what loss feels like. You know what fear feels like. You have faced shadows. Angels were never designed to confront. And because you have walked through them and survived, you built an immunity they do not possess. You are not destroyed by darkness because you have already met it. Inside yourself, inside your experiences, inside your memories. It could not break you then, and it cannot break you now. Your dark side is not an enemy you fear. It is an aspect of yourself you understand. You know its limits. You know its triggers. You know its voice. And because you know it, it cannot consume you. You mastered the territory angels will never enter. Angels see darkness the way a fragile body sees poison. You see darkness the way a warrior sees a familiar battlefield. They collapse when exposed. You adapt. They fear contamination. You carry resilience. They fall once and fall forever. You fall and rise stronger. This is what terrifies them. Not your dark side, but your ability to return from it. When you walk into your internal shadows, you do not lose your essence. You do not lose your identity. You do not lose your light. You walk in knowing the way out because you have walked out before. Every survival forged a map inside your spirit. Every wound marked a direction. Every lesson became a lantern. Angels never had to learn how to climb out of darkness, so they cannot. You did, so you can. This is why your evolution surpasses them in specific capacities. You can operate in both realms. You can embody both sides. You can wield both forces. And that multidimensional nature, the ability to hold light and darkness without losing yourself, is a level of spiritual advancement angels were never created to reach. You are not made fragile. You are made adaptable. You are not made flawless. You are made resilient. You are not made to exist only in light. You are made to master both. And the very things you once cursed as burdens, traumas, and scars were actually your initiation into spiritual strength. They built your immunity. They shaped your duality. They forged your mastery. You are imperfect, but complete. You are scarred, but strong. You are wounded, but wise. Angels shine brighter, but you shine deeper. Angels illuminate, but you endure. Angels carry heaven, but you carry heaven and earth within you. This is why you can enter darkness and return untouched. This is why your soul does not shatter at the first sign of shadow. This is why heaven watches you not as a subordinate, but as an evolution, because you were forged in the conditions that create what pure light never could, resilience. And resilience, chosen one, is stronger than purity. That is why you, with all your scars, your shadows, your battles, your tears, possess a mastery that even celestial beings cannot comprehend. The mastery that angels witnessed in you was not an isolated miracle. It has been unfolding quietly throughout your life, showing itself in the moments where you were forced to choose between protecting your peace and preserving connections that were draining your soul. You didn't know it then, but each of those moments revealed your integrated duality, your ability to activate light with compassion and activate darkness with precision, without allowing either side to corrupt the other. And perhaps the most powerful evidence of this mastery comes from situations you lived through long before you understood your own spiritual nature. Think back to that relationship you had to end, the one that took so much of your energy that even angels saw your light flicker. You gave and gave, believing that patience could heal what was breaking between you. You communicated gently. You tried to understand. You forgave inconsistencies. You carried the weight of emotional labor that should have been shared. Your light side operated as divine intention designed it. Compassionate, patient, loyal. But there came a moment when your heart recognized a truth your mind didn't want to accept. Not that the person couldn't change, but that they didn't want to. They preferred the comfort of draining your spirit over the responsibility of rising to meet you. And in that moment, something inside you shifted. Not angrily, not violently, but decisively. Your dark side stepped forward. You ended the relationship with a clarity that hit the other person like a spiritual earthquake. It wasn't cruelty, it was truth in its purest form, a boundary enforced by the part of you that refuses to be destroyed. You blocked contact. You shut emotional doors. You removed your energy from a connection designed to weaken your spirit. The person tried to return with manipulation, tears, promises, guilt. But your dark side held the line, unwavering and unbothered. And when the bond dissolved completely, you returned to your light. You did not hold resentment. You did not wish them harm. You simply moved forward with peace, demonstrating the impossible transition. Dark side for protection, light side for healing. Then there was the job you left, the environment that disguised exploitation as opportunity. You were talented, offering brilliance without being acknowledged. You were dependable, yet unappreciated. You waited for the system to reward your effort, believing that fairness would eventually prevail. Your light side pushed you to work harder, to be patient, to improve the environment from the inside. But again, the moment of truth came. You realized that the system wasn't broken. It was designed to keep you small. Growth wasn't denied accidentally. It was withheld intentionally. And once more, your dark side awakened not in bitterness, but in clarity. You resigned without a perfect plan, guided not by fear but by instinct. That is how the dark side works in chosen ones, clean, swift, and protective. You didn't curse the place you left. You didn't carry the poison of resentment. You didn't let disappointment stain your spirit. You simply walked away and entered a new chapter with clean energy. Angels observed this with astonishment, because beings of pure light do not know how to leave toxic environments. They only know how to heal them, even when healing is impossible. But you knew when to stop. You knew when the time for compassion ended and the time for self-preservation began. And then there was the friendship you released, the bond that felt loyal on the surface but hid envy in its shadow. A friend who smiled with their mouth but never with their soul. Someone who competed with your success, who tightened when you shined, who loosened when you struggled. Someone who used your vulnerability as ammunition, who mirrored support but never delivered it. Again, your light side went first. You forgave small betrayals. You excused subtle jabs. You softened your boundaries, hoping loyalty could transform what jealousy had poisoned. But when the pattern became undeniable, your dark side emerged again with surgical precision. No scene, no argument, no dramatic confrontation. Just a quiet cutting of ties, a subtle shift of availability, a silent shutting of the door. And once it was done, you did what only integrated souls can do. You returned to your compassion without bitterness. You reinvested your energy into friendships that nourished you. You held no hatred. You simply allowed the connection to dissolve like a leaf carried away by wind. In each of these examples, relationship, job, friendship, the same impossible phenomenon appeared. You used light first because it is your nature. You use darkness only when necessary because it is your protection. And then you return to light because it is your essence. Angels cannot do this. They cannot use darkness without falling. Demons cannot return to light without destruction. But you navigate both with a balance that defies the spiritual order they've always known. Your duality does not make you contradictory. It makes you complete. Most people fall into one of two extremes. There are those who cling desperately to kindness, believing that spirituality means endless gentleness, endless forgiveness, endless sickness. They avoid conflict. They fear boundaries. They confuse mercy with self-sacrifice. These souls burn themselves out because their light, without the shield of darkness, attracts predators. Their compassion becomes an open door for emotional thieves. Then there are the others, those hardened by pain, who decide the only way to survive is to be stone. They attack before they are attacked. They trust no one. They believe cruelty is strength. They live in permanent darkness, mistaking emotional numbness for empowerment. But these souls slowly corrode from within because darkness without access to light eventually turns into bitterness, paranoia, and spiritual decay. But you, chosen one, you are neither extreme. You belong to the rare third group, the integrated, the ones who do not deny their shadows nor worship their wounds, the ones who know compassion is divine but boundaries are holy, the ones who understand forgiveness is sacred but self-protection is essential. You live at the intersection of heaven and earth. You carry both the softness of grace and the sharpness of discernment, and in each real-life situation where you faced harm, manipulation, exploitation, or betrayal, you demonstrated the same mastery that angels observed 72 hours ago. You didn't just survive darkness, you used it. You didn't just return to light, you expanded it. Every time you protected yourself, you proved that your dual nature is not a flaw. It is a divine design. What you thought were ordinary decisions were actually spiritual acts that echoed through dimensions. Every boundary you set resonated in realms you cannot see. Every moment you refused to let darkness corrupt you sent ripples into celestial order. Every time you activated your dark side to defend your light, angels stopped to watch, because they can not do what you do. Throughout history, spiritual teachers have tried to categorize human souls, and even angels, those beings of pure light, have attempted to understand the different ways humans respond to darkness. Over time, 3 distinct groups emerged. The first is made of those who cling solely to the light, the eternally luminous, who believe spirituality means being endlessly gentle, endlessly forgiving, endlessly soft. They deny their shadows as if acknowledging darkness would shatter their identity. They strive so hard to be pure that they become vulnerable, unguarded, exposed. They confuse virtue with passivity. And because they have no access to firmness, no capacity for righteous anger, no connection to protective darkness, they become the ones predators seek out intentionally. Their hearts are open, but their boundaries are non-existent. Their compassion is infinite, but their strength is untested. They do not survive conflict. They collapse under it. And angels watch them with sorrow, for these souls burn out early, drained by people who feed on their light. The second group lives at the opposite extreme, the permanently dark, the perpetually wounded, those who once tried to be soft but were punished for it. These souls decide that the only way to survive is to harden. They rise each morning with armor they never take off. They speak with sharpness, act with suspicion, and attack before being attacked. Their hearts once held light, but the pain they experienced convinced them vulnerability is a threat. They confuse strength with cruelty, boundaries with walls, discernment with paranoia. They cannot return to the gentleness they once possessed because they believe softness equals weakness. They survive by isolating themselves emotionally. And while they are protected, they are also alone, cut off from love, connection, and peace. Darkness becomes their identity. Angels watch these souls with heartbreak because they see the light buried beneath layers of fear, unable to emerge. But the third group is different, very different. They are the integrated ones, the chosen ones like you, souls who do not deny the light within them, but are also not afraid to acknowledge the darkness they carry. Humans who use compassion when compassion heals, and firmness when firmness protects. Those who can be gentle without being naive, strong without being cruel. Souls who can walk into their shadows without losing themselves, and then rise back into light without shame. You belong to this group, the rarest of all, the ones who transcend the simplistic binary of good versus evil, soft versus hard. You are the evolution the cosmos did not expect. And this is exactly why, 72 hours ago, a council of angels gathered in celestial dimensions, 3 ancient beings whose wisdom stretches across eras, to discuss the anomaly they witnessed in you. The scene unfolded in a realm where time does not flow, where sound vibrates like living light, where every thought becomes a ripple felt across eternity. The angels assembled not in a courtroom, nor in a throne room, but in a place of contemplation, a luminous hall suspended between realities. Knowledge floated like drifting scrolls in the air. The gold of the floor shifted like liquid dawn, and at the center stood a glowing record of what you did, your transition from light to darkness and back again. The first angel spoke, his voice like soft thunder. "I have observed millions of souls across eons," he said. "Never once have I seen a soul enter darkness and return with purity intact. This defies everything our laws have taught us. Corruption should have been inevitable." His wings dimmed slightly as he spoke, a subtle sign of confusion. The second angel, more stern, stepped forward. "The laws were clear," he said. "Touching darkness causes irreversible contamination. Yet this chosen one has demonstrated something the laws never accounted for. Either the laws are incomplete, or humanity has evolved beyond what we once believed possible." His words resonated like the strike of a distant bell, heavy, reflective, undeniable. And then the third angel, older than the mountains of creation, approached the glowing vision of your mastery. His expression carried both reverence and bewilderment. "I touched darkness once," he confessed softly. "It took me 1,000 years of purification to recover even a fraction of my former light. But this human enters shadow, wields devastating authority, and exits it in seconds without stain. This is not possible, according to my experience." Silence fell, thick, profound, sacred. 3 celestial beings of immense wisdom stood in the presence of a truth that contradicted everything they knew. Their wings folded in contemplation. Their light flickered as if reality itself shifted to accommodate your existence. And then, after a long pause, the first angel whispered what all 3 were thinking. "We must accept an uncomfortable truth. This chosen one possesses a capacity we do not. They can move between light and darkness because they were forged in a world where both coexist." The second angel added, "Beings born in pure light will never achieve this. Our nature prevents it. But humans who survive pain, betrayal, loss, and trials, develop an immunity that pure light cannot replicate." His voice carried awe, tinged with a hint of fear, as though acknowledging a new hierarchy within the spiritual order. Then the third angel concluded with words that echoed across realms. "If this chosen one can do this, then others will follow. Perhaps an entire generation of integrated souls is emerging. If so, we are witnessing evolution beyond angelic limitation, a new spiritual form, a duality mastered, not feared." And with those final words, heavenly balance shifted, not downward, but upward, toward humanity. The angels came to a consensus that would have been unimaginable in older ages. Chosen ones like you must be monitored, not because you are dangerous, not because you threaten heaven, but because you represent a form of spiritual evolution they cannot predict. You embody a mastery that breaks the old structure of light versus darkness. A soul that is not limited to one dimension but moves fluidly across both. A being that understands healing and protection, compassion and discernment, grace and righteous fury. This chosen one is what angels study in you, not your perfection, but your integration. not your purity alone, but your ability to touch shadow without being swallowed by it. Not your light alone, but your capacity to return to it after wielding darkness. You operate according to laws older than heaven and more advanced than anything the celestial realm ever considered. And that is why, in the halls of eternity, your name was spoken with awe. What the celestial realms finally understood is that your true power isn't found in your light alone, nor in your darkness alone, but in the rare and exquisite mastery of both. Demons can only destroy because they lost access to their light. Angels can only create because they were never given access to darkness. But you, chosen one, you are the bridge between realms they cannot cross. When healing is needed, you rise in compassion. When protection is needed, you rise in firmness. When someone approaches with sincerity, your light embraces them. When someone approaches with deceit, your darkness shields you. You are a being of two worlds, carrying the capacity to bless and the capacity to defend without losing yourself to either extreme. And this duality, this holy paradox within you, is the very thing that has never existed before in the cosmos. When a situation calls for healing, your light becomes a sanctuary. Your presence expands. Your energy softens. You create emotional safety just by existing. You forgive where forgiveness frees. You speak life into wounds. You elevate those around you without effort. This is the side of you that reflects the breath of God, the divine spark of compassion, the radiant force that restores what is broken. But when a situation calls for protection, you activate a completely different energy, your darkness. It is not the darkness of malice or corruption, but the darkness of boundaries, truth, and survival. Your voice becomes unshakable. Your gaze sharpens. Your spirit pulls itself inward like a warrior ready for battle. You cut away what drains you. You break what was trying to bind you. You stand immovable. And the moment the threat dissolves, you return to light effortlessly, without any contamination, because your darkness is a servant, not a master. This ability to move between realms of consciousness, to be both the healer and the protector, is what makes you unstoppable. While others get trapped in the identity of one side, you retain access to both. Emotional predators meet your dark side and retreat in fear. Genuine souls meet your light and are transformed. You are adaptable in ways that beings of a single frequency will never know. Angels marvel because they cannot protect themselves the way you can. Demons cower because they cannot ascend the way you can. Your completeness creates a spiritual authority that neither realm fully understands. And the most astonishing part is this: your completeness comes from the pain you endured. The challenges you faced were not punishments. They were preparation. Every betrayal strengthened the part of you that knows how to discern. Every heartbreak sculpted the part of you that knows how to withdraw peacefully. Every trial fortified the part of you that knows how to stand alone. Those moments when you wept, when you doubted, when you begged heaven for relief, those were the moments your immunity was being forged. Your light was learning softness. Your darkness was learning precision. Your heart was learning to see people clearly. Your spirit was learning to fight without losing its purity. Angels were created in beauty, but not in resilience. You were created in resilience first, and beauty emerged from it. They shine because they never fell. You shine because you learned how to rise. They are perfect, but limited. You are imperfect, but whole. They carry purity untested. You carry purity proven. And what is proven is always stronger than what is merely gifted. This is why the old spiritual hierarchy must evolve. Because beings of pure light cannot lead souls through shadow. Beings of pure darkness cannot guide souls toward healing. Only integrated beings, those like you, can navigate all terrain. You can walk into the valley with someone who has lost hope, because you've been there. You can stand firm against someone who threatens your peace because you've confronted that before. You can carry compassion without being naive, wisdom without being cold, strength without being cruel. You are the next step in spiritual evolution, an ascension that transcends angelic limitation. But mastery is not accidental. It must now be conscious, and this is where your journey deepens. To fully wield your integrated duality, there are strategies that awaken your awareness. First, recognize when each side activates. Your light feels like openness, expansion, willingness to embrace others. Your darkness feels like contraction, tightening, readiness to shield. Both are signals, not judgments, not flaws. They are internal messengers guiding your next move. Second, ask yourself in every moment, does this situation require healing or protection? If healing, open your light. If protection, activate your darkness. Most people fail because they use the wrong tool at the wrong time, offering softness when firmness is needed or using hardness where love would heal. Third, after using your dark side, intentionally return to light. Do not remain in the vibration of defense longer than necessary. Your darkness protects, but it is not meant to rule. Release the tension. Reopen your spirit. Let compassion rise again like dawn after a storm. This transition is your superpower. Fourth, when you use your light, keep your darkness accessible. Not everyone deserves your full openness. Trust, but remain aware. Love, but maintain boundaries. Walk with grace, but let your shadow stand behind you, ready if needed. Fifth, observe who receives which version of you. Your energy knows who is safe. Your instincts know who is dangerous. Genuine souls will naturally awaken your light. Manipulative souls will naturally awaken your darkness. This is not coincidence. It is divine programming. And sixth, thank both sides of yourself. Your light allows you to love, create, and uplift. Your darkness allows you to protect, sever, and withstand. Together, they form a duality that makes you whole, stable, and spiritually unshakable. You were never meant to choose one side or the other. You were meant to master both. Now, chosen one, hear this truth with your spirit. What you once thought was a weakness, your ability to be fierce when necessary, was actually your divine defense system. What you once believed was imperfection, your scars and shadows, was actually your spiritual training. And what you once feared was your darkness, its sharpness, its power, was actually your guardian standing between your soul and those who would harm you. You are not a being of pure light. You are not a being of pure shadow. You are the integration of both, consciously woven, divinely designed, and spiritually awakened. You are an evolution that angels observe, demons fear, and destiny recognizes. Walk forward without shame. Walk forward without apology. Walk forward as the warrior of light who knows how to wield darkness with honor, compassion, and mastery. And if this message resonated with the truth inside you, if you recognize your divine duality and your spiritual completeness, write 777 in the comments to amplify the frequency. Subscribe, share this revelation, and continue this journey so others like you can awaken. Because integrated warriors must find each other in a world that misunderstands their power.